So it looks like Tia Mowry's soon-to-be ex-husband, Cory Hardrict, is going to challenge their prenuptial agreement and doesn't agree with the reasoning for this divorce as irreconcilable differences. Let's unpack some of what he's saying in these court filings and why he might be saying these things. Welcome back to the Kempire Daily YouTube channel, your #1 source for pop culture news and music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. As always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. So TMZ had just caught up with Tia out in the streets, and she was talking about celebrating the Christmas holiday with Cory Hardrict. But as you know, we've been covering the last couple of months of this divorce. As you know, Tia Mowry filed for divorce just a couple of months ago. And the last story that we did on this was Tia Mowry liking and commenting on a Instagram post where it talked about toxic relationship and a partner not paying bills, which made us all go, damn, Tia, are you sending a message? Because look, you're doing this on a public platform. There have been all kinds of rumors that have been going on social media. As you know, when a divorce like this, a couple that you just never saw this coming, and they've been together for like 20 years, we're all just like, what was it? What could it have been? So there's been a lot of speculation until now. There'll still be some speculation. So Cory, in court documents, is questioning their prenuptial agreement and disagrees with the determination that the reason for this divorce is irreconcilable differences. As always, we will be citing our sources. There are quite a couple of sources that I want to cite, including our friends over at Layla Lynn TV. Per usual, we'll be citing them in the description of this video, so be sure to go check out their video because there might be elements that I haven't covered that you want to know, especially when they dig into the actual legal documents. So just to first get into what is being said right now. This is from our friends over at the Atlanta Black Star. They report this. It said, when actress Tia Mowry announced her divorce from estranged husband Cory Hardrict, it appeared that it would proceed swiftly. That's what we all thought. Given the sister star had requested joint custody and that any rights to spousal support be terminated for both her and Hardrict. However, the All-American actor, that's Cory, is now questioning the validity of that prenuptial agreement, a new report is claiming. According to court documents obtained by the media outlet Radar Online, but also our friends over at Layla Lynn, the 43-year-old recently responded after being served by his wife of 14 years in October, denying the, quote, irreconcilable differences played a role in the demise of their marriage. So I know a lot of you hear this term all the time, and I hear it all the time, and then I always have to Google it again. What exactly does that mean? Especially legally, because what we think certain terms mean in regular life doesn't necessarily mean the same in legal life. Okay, like when we were talking about Jen Shaw and what does elderly mean in the eyes of the law. We think elderly is like maybe 65 and up, but in the eyes of the law, no, it's really 55 and up. Sorry, y'all. Okay, that's just the law. So of course I had to Google schmoogle and just can remind myself what that means and what falls under irreconcilable differences. Over at our friends at mensrightsdivorcelaw.com, they cite this. They said, irreconcilable differences technically means that an individual and their spouse cannot get along with one another enough to keep the marriage alive. And this lack of getting along can cause a whole array of other issues in the marriage. It doesn't necessarily matter what exactly caused a rift within the marriage because irreconcilable differences simply means that the marriage isn't fixable and the differences between each spouse are too great. There are instances in which people simply feel as though they cannot sustain their marriage because of whatever issues they're experiencing. Remember, Tia is the one who filed for this divorce, and she's citing irreconcilable differences. They continue. They said, this coincides with the fact that you don't need to come to a mutual agreement as to why you are divorcing your spouse if you file under irreconcilable differences. And it's also important to keep in mind these types of things, these legalities, and we've talked about this when we talk about all other legal cases, because, you know, When we talk about these things, I always remind you here, at least in the United States, for those that are watching out of the United States, it can vary from state to state because of states' rights. Every state has a right for certain things in regards to their laws. All right. So here's one of the things that I never paid attention to in regards to irreconcilable differences. These are 5 common. All right. It's not just these particular things, but these are 5 common irreconcilable differences. They write, every person has certain opinions, habits, upbringings, and different personalities that contribute to who we are, all of which can eventually lead to a breakdown of the marriage. When a couple claims irreconcilable differences as the cause for their divorce proceedings, it essentially means that they cannot work out their issues in order to regain a healthy future. This includes attempts at trying to rectify their differences through therapy and other types of marriage counseling. Makes me wonder, did Tia and Cory try those things and it didn't work? Okay. So the overall reasons why a couple may file for irreconcilable differences can always vary significantly, but the following are 5 common irreconcilable differences. 1, finances. Again, my last video talking about Tia and Cory, I was telling you that she liked and commented on a post talking about a spouse not carrying their weight in a relationship and paying the bills. So they say finances. Money can be a sensitive subject for all married couples. This is because each spouse will bring their own ideas as to the protocol of how expenses should be made. Familial finances can be even trickier to agree upon when only one spouse has a consistent income source. And a lot of you have said this because a lot of you have been following Tia and Cory's relationship, how she picked him up from that bus stop. I say that facetiously. However, that's really the story. They've told that story. But also, his career has not been at the same level as her career, but he's been working. He's currently working. But do they make the same amount of money? Probably not. All right. They continue. They says some married couples undergo serious conflicts when it comes to debt accumulation, remaining on a steady budget, managing property, selling assets, and so much more. This also comes up in these court filings. There are a variety of ways in which financial tension can lead to irreconcilable differences. The second, which I don't think that they're going to have, because in these court documents, they're both asking for legal joint custody. So they agree on that. So they say parenting. For the most part, we base our parenting beliefs on how we were raised as children. And when a married couple is brought up within different styles of parenting, it can lead to a communication breakdown between them when children become a part of the familial equation. Spouses may disagree upon the best ways to parent the children, plan for their futures, or how to discipline the children. Who knows? Remember, they've been together for a very long time. Even before they had their eldest son, they were already together probably several years. All right. So third common reason for irreconcilable difference filing is religion. Being married to someone who has opposing religious views can make it rather difficult to be in alignment during the marriage. There are many situations in which religion doesn't seem like a big difference at the beginning of a relationship, but this can quickly change when religion involved with how a couple plans to raise their children. 4, extended family relationships. Having difficult in-laws is a very common reason for irreconcilable differences. This may be a result of the spouse wanting to spend more or less time with their family than you'd prefer. There are many instances in which a strenuous extended family relationship will create a divide within the marriage. And 5, communication. Many of the above irreconcilable differences stem from dysfunctional or ineffective or none at all marital communication. There are plenty of people who get together and married that started off having poor communication skills. This can get worse as a marriage ages if it does not work early on. So this says, what is a no-fault divorce? See, that you probably heard that term when we've covered other divorces and things like that. They just go on to say it varies from state to state, but in the state of New Jersey, you don't need a reason to get divorced. No-fault divorces means that there are irreconcilable differences between the two spouses. They continue to say the benefits of a no-fault divorce settlement Irreconcilable differences are very common, and the biggest benefit to do this is that you do not air out your personal drama to the world. So that might be part of the reason why Tia decided to file under irreconcilable differences. They do not want a lot of this information out there. So shout out to our friends over at Leyland. She got some of these court documents and highlights, where it says in the court documents, more about their relationship, they're legally married, that who's involved in this particular situation, and their date of marriage. They were married back in April 20th of 2008. And of course, they list the 2 minor children. But this is where it gets a little weird, because under other requests in these court filings, Cory says that attorney fees and costs payable by both petitioner and respondent. So it seems like it's all good for a second until you get to this other part under C, where it says determination of the validity of the prenuptial agreement dated April 14th, only 6 days before their marriage. Okay? This is when it was agreed upon. And or that any provisions are unconscionable. Unconscionable, unreasonable, maybe possibly excessive. So it looks as if that Cory is challenging the prenuptial agreement. So the Atlantic Black Star continues. He says that his lawyer, Cory's lawyer, noted in the response that stated that he wanted the court to determine the validity of the prenuptial agreement dated April 14, 2008, and or that any provisions are unconscionable. As I mentioned before, Cory did agree to joint legal and physical custody of their 2 children, 11-year-old Cory Hardrict and 4-year-old Cairo Hardrict. However, while he asked the court to terminate his ex-wife's right to spousal support, he did not determine whether he'd seek spousal support by leaving the boxes unchecked on the paperwork. This comes just days after Mowry revealed that she was excited about spending the holidays with Cory and the children. She says, family is family no matter what happens, and that's what's important to me. So we will always be family, she told TMZ reporters. As you know, Cory really hasn't said a lot, and a lot of people have been reading into some of what he's posted on social media and made some assumptions about his head and where he is at. Obviously, it seems very much so that he did not want this divorce. But now it's getting a little messy because now he's going to possibly challenge this prenuptial agreement. It doesn't say that he is, but he wants to leave it up to the court to determine if it was a reasonable prenuptial agreement. We did not expect that this particular divorce would get this messy, but we also don't understand what could have been the reasoning for getting to this place. A lot of times we see in these divorces, they always cite irreconcilable differences, and it could be a whole lot more. Sometimes it's not even irreconcilable differences. It could be something that they feel that's irreconcilable. So this is getting a little interesting and probably very messy. It will be interesting to see if the court will hold up the prenuptial agreement. We don't know what this prenuptial agreement looks like. We probably won't see what it looks like. But remember, this was signed years ago at this point. It would be interesting to see if he does go ahead and challenge this and wants to fight this prenuptial agreement. A lot of you have your feelings about Cory Hardrict. I want to know your thoughts on these latest, him denying irreconcilable differences, him possibly challenging this prenuptial agreement. Let's have that conversation in the comment section. And as always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. Happy holidays, and thanks for watching.